The boy's parents often told him they were becoming poor day by day since money was very tight. He blindly trusted them and lived an impoverished life until he went to the bank secretly. Paul was never allowed to have a phone. His parents also made sure he and his sister never accessed their bank accounts and even seized their debit cards, claiming that money was too tight. But something about his parents' sudden lavishness gave him the cues for suspicion. During this time, the boy turned 18, and since his parents were on a cruise, he had a plan brewing in his mind. He immediately walked over to the bank to investigate. Paul's parents persuaded him and his sister to set up joint bank accounts with their mom's name tied as the secondary account holder. The decision was immediately made when his grandparents' will was declared. According to the will, Paul's parents were to receive nothing more than a piece of land. Meanwhile, Paul and his sister were set up with annuities, paying monthly interest to both of them. Since the siblings were too young to understand money handling, they had no idea their mom could access their accounts. As time ticked by, Paul suspected something was sketchy about his parents' lavish lifestyle, considering how they constantly claimed to be poor. Something about their sudden riches didn't add up to him. While the parents lived in luxury, they made sure their children got nothing more than $50 Walmart gift cards each year. They never allowed him and his sister to leave the house ever since the accounts were set up. When Paul turned 18, he reached out to the bank and lied about the debit cards being robbed. The cards were instantly deactivated. It didn't surprise him when his parents gave them the liberty only to pay the taxes on the interest. But nothing more was allowed. This continued until the parents seized their children's debit cards, claiming they'd have to manage themselves since money was too tight. However, it wasn't the first time they had done something like this. Some time ago, Paul's mom locked away his checks and debit card in a safe in her room. She outright told him he couldn't be trusted with money. Day by day, he couldn't help but suspect something was sketchy about his parents becoming overly protective of the money that didn't belong to them in the first place. When Paul reached out to the bank, he transferred all his money to a new account, leaving nothing but $2 in his account, so that they had enough left to return home. He bought a phone since he was never allowed to use one before. He then took a cab to the office handling his inheritance and set up a deposit for a new bank account. Paul set up a new account for his sister too, but she was not allowed to access her funds without a guardian or until she turned 18. With his newfound money, he bought a car and rented a house. Since his sister also wanted to move in with him, he wondered if it would be kidnapping to take his sister under his wing, considering she was only 17. He also questioned if what they did was illegal, since his parents were using the money from the inheritance from which they were legally cut off. As for the inheritance, Paul was aware that his parents weren't allowed to access the funds. However, how he sorted his issue is uncertain. Meanwhile, it's still guesswork if he had confronted his parents about accessing the money without their knowledge. What are your thoughts about Paul's action? Do you think he should have told his parents before coming with such a move? Comment your thoughts on the comment section below.